Welcome to the HJC Podcast, powered by HockeyJerseyConcepts.com. New episodes go live every Saturday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, and wherever you listen to your podcasts. Good day, everyone. This is episode 27 of the HJC Podcast. I'm your host, Ryan, and today on the podcast, we got a pretty good show. Last week, we talked about logo changes that went from good to bad. So why not for this week do logo changes that went from bad to good? And we're also bringing back Shawn's Black Jersey of the Week. We also have Fake or Authentic, the Mailbag, Throwback Throwdown, and your chance to win a free HJC sticker. Now let's get to who's joining me on the podcast today. Joining me almost as always, Monday's writer, Shawn. What's up, Shawn?
I'm rocking the Halifax Mooseheads green alternate jersey tonight, as they have been chosen to host the 2019 Memorial Cup.
Ooh. I suppose you'll be trying to go to that next year?
I will be. It'll be a good reason for me to return to Halifax after graduating.
I haven't been on the podcast for a couple weeks. What's been up with you?
I'm in the last few weeks of school, honestly.
Sounds good. Sounds good. That is something I do not miss. Not at all. Also on the podcast is Tuesday's writer, Ben. What's going on, Ben?
Not too much. How about yourself?
You know, I just got a new job, so I'm trying to figure out that routine. What about you? What's up with you?
Nothing a whole lot. Just working, writing blog posts. It's all good.
All right, good stuff. And friend of the show, Bpoe, joining us today. What's going on?
Not much. About to do a podcast.
Oh, cool. What podcast?
I forget.
It's the Bpoe and Jets hockey ship podcast, filmed simultaneously with the HJC podcast.
All right, so everyone's here. Everyone's accounted for. What better time than now to get started? And as I mentioned, our first topic today is logo changes in NHL history that have gone from bad logos to good logos. And we're just going to go in a completely random order here. So let's start. First choice, Ben, your first choice from bad logo to good logo in the NHL.
My first choice is going to be the Columbus Blue Jackets, and, well, it's their only logo change. This is a 90s team that really did not belong in the 90s. The lime green to like a patriotic theme is just terrible, and the way they brought it in that stupid ribbon-like pattern is just terrible. But the logo they have now is so great. It looks energetic. It looks dynamic. I love how the Ohio flag is wrapped around the star. That, to me, embodies what a Blue Jacket, going back to the Civil War, that seems to embody the spirit of it. It's a fantastic hockey logo. It looks great on a crest.
Yeah, I got to agree with you there. That's a really solid logo. So if you had to rate or grade the bad logo and then rate or grade the good logo, what would you give to each?
For the bad logo, I would it'd have to be in the D range. It's just a team. It's an identity that does not belong in the 90s. It needs to be much more traditional, conservative. The new logo, I would go maybe not an A. It's not fantastic. Probably a solid B+. It does look really good.
Yeah, it's definitely a good logo. I preferred it on the pre-edge alternate, but it still looks nice and clean and solid on the current home and road jersey. All right, Bpoe, let's go to you. What's your first choice for bad logo to good logo?
Well, my first choice was the Vegas Golden Knights, because going from nothing to something is a great improvement, right?
Oh, boo.
No, I'm kidding. My first choice, Steve's not going to like this one because he actually picked this team last week, Florida. Going from there, of course, the logo that they'd used for most of their existence into the new identity. And I was never really a big fan of Florida's old logo because it's very dated. It's very busy. There's a lot of different elements and shapes on that logo. And especially for, like, in logo design, you want to have a logo that can be downsized easily without losing a lot of detail, and something that can be embroidered easily. And for a professional hockey team, that's going to be embroidered a lot. And that's a lot of details to add to that. With their new rebrand, they have a much simpler logo, more modern, more sleek. And even if they used the Leaping Panther update as their primary instead of the current one, I still think that would have been just as good as an improvement.
Yeah, I think for the Panthers logo, I like the Leaping Panther. I think they only include it on their helmet currently. The shield is okay. For me, it's equal to their old logo. But how about rating their old logo and then rating their new logo?
Their old logo, I'd probably put it a 5 or a 6, and the new one probably at an 8.
That's a pretty big jump.
I think a lot of people with this logo, and even some of the other logos from like the 90s or whenever they might have been growing up in general, I think they kind of get stuck in a sense of nostalgia and look at things a little bit biased. And there's not really a problem with that. It's just kind of natural. But I think that's kind of what happens when some people, at least in other people's opinions, overrate a logo. Or underrate even.
Mm-hmm. All right, Shawn, who do you got? Bad to good.
I'm going with an interesting pick here. I'm going to say that the Buffalo Sabres B sword patch got a massive improvement in the switch from the red and black gray color scheme to the Buffalo Slug and current color scheme.
Yeah.
The reason being is that the logos, I don't want to call them necessarily bad, but they became very dated very quickly, particularly the angles on the logo. The sword itself stuck out a little too much on the black B. And frankly, by the 2000s, they looked like they had come from a bygone era. And unlike the sword logo, I never felt like they particularly went with the goat head logo. When you go to 2006, 2007, you get a lot nicer of a B that today would hold up. A lot of concepts use that logo still on the shoulders, and it's for a good reason. On top of that, the sword seems to blend a lot more, and color balancing is done a lot better, I think, here, particularly because they changed the handle of the sword. On the low, it's very hard to see, but on the yellow B, it is silver and white, while on the blue B, it is yellow and blue.
Anything for Buffalo that they changed to blue and gold, for the most part, was an improvement. Go ahead.
If I had to rate them.
Yeah, go ahead, rate them.
If I had to rate them, I would give the original B and the not so popular S version. I'd give them each a 5 out of 10. They're not the worst things Buffalo has ever worn, but they dated themselves very quickly. And the current ones, I give a solid 8 out of 10. And I think that if they had kept it with the current identity, while it would be a little cartoony, it would be something that the team could embrace as a shoulder patch in the same way that the Yeti foot is embraced in Colorado.
All right, good stuff there, Shawn. Let's go to, let's go to Bpoe. You got a second choice?
I do. And this one is, I guess, less of a complete change or rebrand than it is just an update to their original logo, is Nashville. And it's my sentiments here are very similar to Florida's. Nashville's old logo. Even as a kid, I remember thinking this logo is ugly, and I hated it. It's so busy. There's so many different colors that don't go together too well. And again, it's just so busy. It looks so dated. Whenever they cleaned up the logo, even though it's the same exact base, it looks so much better and looks professional. And now it's probably up there as one of my favorites. Not top 5 or whatever, but it's definitely one of the better logos in the league, I would say.
Yeah, the old one was ridiculously busy, and the new one just very much comes across as the way it was always meant to be. So that's a good pick. Rate the old logo, rate the new logo. What do you think?
I would probably say a 3 on the old one and maybe a 7 to a 7.5 on the new one.
Yeah, I might, and for me, I might even go 8 on the new one. But yeah, I agree with you on the old one there. All right, let's go to Shawn, your second choice.
I'm going to stick with Nashville, but I'm going to go to their alternate logos. When Nashville arrived in the league, they had the Gaylord Center Tower logo, and I thought that was very nice. But then in 2006, they brought in the skull shoulder patch, and that logo to me is one of the ugliest patches in NHL history. It blended into the silver on the on the arms, and it wasn't a particularly nice logo, and it didn't even look that great as the roundel for the checkerboard logo. And then come 2011-12, we get two beautiful shoulder patches here. But if I had to pick a favorite out of them, it's the guitar pick logo. Ties in the Tennessee flag, the Music City theme. The NP logo is featured at the bottom of it, and it's a nice alternative to the saber-tooth tiger head, but still ties together with the Nashville theme. So I think it's very impressive that they were able to do that.
Okay, so rate the Skullhead logo versus the guitar pick logo.
The Skullhead logo for me gets a 3 out of 10. It's upon even being brought in, it was dated. The triangle version was also dated, and the guitar pick for me, honestly, it gets a 10 out of 10.
All right, good stuff there. 10 out of 10 for the guitar pick logo. It's a solid logo, a versatile logo. You saw that when they used it with the All-Star Game branding too. So it is a solid logo, and that's a good choice. All right, round us out here, Ben. What's your second choice?
Okay, my second choice, Shawn probably won't like this, but I'm going to go back to Buffalo and say is when they moved from Buffa Slug back to the original. I'll buy it as a recolored original. It's what they're wearing now. Buffa Slug, I can never really get over. It does not look like a bison. It really does look like a slug. I don't know what they were going for, like a abstract lightning bolt. Doesn't really make much sense. And the original logo that Buffalo has is probably their best logo in team history. Can't really get behind the recoloring. It just seems like an unnecessary step that they didn't need to make. There's something about the simplicity of it. A team called the Buffalo Sabres. There's a buffalo and then there's sabres. I think there's some understated elegance in that.
It's like the designer was like, oh shit, this is doing 5 minutes. I got to do something. Okay, let's put a buffalo here, sabers here, put a circle on it. Done.
Wrap it up in a bow.
And I mean, it's a good logo, so I mean, that's not necessarily saying that that's a bad thing to be so simple.
Yeah, I'm not a hater of the Buffa Slug. I mean, I'd give it a 6, maybe a 6.5. But Ben, what would you rate the Slug, and then what would you rate the update?
Update, I'd give a D+. Or I'm sorry, the Slug I would give a D+. The update would give a B.
All right. Good stuff there.
See, Ben, if you really want to hit it on the head, it's the fact that for a team that's called the Buffalo Sabres, the Buffa Slug is not a sword. And that's the only acceptable criticism of the Buffa Slug.
It contains 0 swords.
It has nothing to do with the team name.
And 0 buffaloes.
And 0 Hey now.
0 buffaloes. But 1 slug. 1 slug.
I wonder what the Buffa Slug would look like if you changed the tail of the slug to a sword.
So you want the buffalo, or what was supposed to be a buffalo, to morph into a sword.
Yeah. I wonder what that would look like.
All right, concept artist, this is a call to you. Morph the Buffa Slug from a buffalo and morphs into a sword. It's like a
free concept of the week nomination for me and Bpoe. It's
like a buffalo to sword gradient. That's what we're looking for here.
Ooh. Then the jersey has to be gradient too.
A gradient turd burger.
Oh man, this is going too far. Thanks, Buffalo, for your collection of awful jerseys. Anyway, still to come on the podcast is your chance to win a free HJC sticker and find out who won that exclusive Buffa Turd Burger Jersey Casual sticker from 2 weeks ago. That's still to come up on the podcast. Coming up next, we're going to do Shawn's Black Jersey of the Week. You're listening to the HJC Podcast every Saturday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern on HockeyJerseyConcepts.com. Listen, download, and subscribe on iTunes, Google Play, Spreaker, Stitcher, and TuneIn Radio. All right, so we're right back here now with Shawn's Black Jersey of the Week. And if you haven't heard this before, this is where Shawn, he has an affinity for black jerseys that most people would despise, I'll say. But Shawn enjoys the occasional black jersey, more than the occasional black jersey, actually. So he's going to defend a black jersey, and then collectively the other writers as a team will either agree with him or just bash his opinion into the ground. So, Shawn, you bat lead off on this. Go ahead. Your black jersey of the week.
My black jersey of the week might rattle a couple of Penguins fans here, but the Penguins' inaugural Edge jerseys, I think, were not as bad as people think. Now, before we begin, I have to say they outstayed their welcome by far. By the time the mid-2010s came around, it was time for an update, something new perhaps. But for what it is, it carried over enough of the Pens' colors and layouts from the previous jerseys that I don't see it as a particularly harsh break from what we had from the previous jerseys. Obviously, they could have used the RoboPen on the shoulders, but the amount of white on the jersey, I think, did it better than the predecessor. The lack of grading in the gold, I think, actually helped the Vegas gold. And this is one of the jerseys, I think, that the Penguins wore that Vegas gold actually looks halfway decent on. On top of this, the Penguins logo itself with the triangle, I think, actually looks decent enough that it works as a Penguins jersey without resorting to the same pattern that they wear now than that they wore in the 80s. And again, I cannot emphasize this enough. It was a new design for the Penguins. They didn't have to bring back Lemieux jerseys. It was something that they were able to win in. And on top of that, and this is probably just a personal thing, but it's the jersey I associate most with the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Oh, ouch. Just, first off, you said it out, it overstayed its welcome. It's like that Pittsburgh Penguins jersey is like a door-to-door salesman who showed up at your door and invited himself in. That's what that Pittsburgh Penguins jersey is like. It didn't overstay its welcome. It wasn't even welcomed. And that jersey template is just a mark. It's a black mark on Reebok's jersey tenure in the NHL. And
it's not that bad of a template. It's better than Colorado. It's better than Anaheim.
It's a bad template. It's not as good as that.
It's fine. You can make it work with a hemstripe. I'll stand by that for sure.
Ben, what do you think of this Penguins jersey? 2007 until when did they use it? 2013, 2014?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
You know the Ottawa jersey? The ones they've been wearing forever that no one likes?
Yeah.
This is the exact same thing.
Yeah.
I think it's worse because there was no reason that Pittsburgh should be using Vegas gold, especially when they could have their entire city could have been matching long before the Penguins went to the rebrand. That jersey made no sense. It's on Adidas's lazy, boring template that was around 10 years longer than it needed to be. It's just awful.
Bpoe, you're a Penguins fan. What'd you think of this jersey?
I'll throw Shawn a little bone here. The template isn't as bad as people make it out to be in a vacuum. However, we don't live in a vacuum. And considering that the Penguins, the Senators, the Lightning all wore this template with slight variations, makes it just god-awful for a professional league. And in a way, honestly, it kind of is the epitome of a youth hockey jersey to me. I see this as a youth hockey jersey, and it's like, okay, that looks normal. Or a beer league jersey, just in different colorings. And there's not, and as you guys know, I like a lot of color on jerseys, and there's not nearly enough color on this jersey to satisfy me. But I also hate to say this, as a Penguins fan, this jersey kind of holds a bit of a soft spot for me because it's what I remember most growing up, because I was about maybe 9 years old whenever this jersey came into existence. So I don't remember too much of the previous jerseys aside from, just seeing it once I gained more awareness. And they won 2 Stanley Cups in the white version of this jersey. So as awful as these jerseys are, they do hold a soft spot in my heart.
It's such a terrible jersey. It's a terrible template. And especially from where it came from, the jersey before it, that helped it be even worse. This thing was awful. And you mentioned House League jersey. That's when 3 teams are wearing the same template. That's essentially what it is. That's a House League jersey. You watch a House League and the teams all have the same template. They're just different colors. Shawn, I don't understand how you can actually like this jersey. This thing, the only thing that keeps this jersey, this is a 5 out of 10 for me, barely a 5 out of 10. And the only thing that keeps it at a 5 and not dropping down even lower is the solid logo and the fact that I never really minded Vegas gold.
I would give it a 6.5, 7. I'd call it passable. I'd say go back to 2007, 2008, and it's probably fair to say 2007, 2008 was the ugliest year in NHL history, without a doubt.
And the Penguins contributed to that.
No, the Penguins had one of the nicer jerseys in the league that year, and that actually does say something because St. Louis, San Jose, Vancouver, Buffalo, and Atlanta kind of looked decent that year, and they were one of the few teams that changed their jerseys that looked decent that year.
Well, Shawn's gonna like his black jerseys. That's fine, but this one's unbelievable. I can't believe you gave this a 7, but that's why we have Shawn's Black Jersey of the Week segment. If you want to get involved and either take Shawn's side or argue against him, you can leave some comments or you can contact us, mailbag at hockeyjerseyconcepts.com. Are you on Shawn's side? Do you like the Penguins' first edge jersey? Or are you pretty much on the rest of the world side and think that this thing is a templated piece of crap? Anyways, still to come on the podcast, your chance to win a free HJC sticker. But up next, Throwback Throwdown. It's time for Throwback Throwdown. So our theme of the podcast has been logo changes from bad to good. So we got a couple teams here going from bad to good. We have the Dallas Stars in their 2013 rebrand going up against the Nashville Predators and their 2011 rebrand. So let's start with the Dallas Stars. They went from black with white and gold trim on the home jersey and a white jersey on the road with green and gold trim. And this was the one with the arch script and the number, very football style jersey. They switched to what they called Victory Green, Dallas Green. I forget what they named it. They had a unique stylized shoulder yoke, sort of reminiscent of Blackhawks jerseys, but one less stripe. On the road white, they had black stripe, single black stripe, single green stripe on the hem and the arms. And the updated logo was from the Stars script on top of a star. And this moved to the beveled or stylized D inside a star. Really solid looking jersey. As for Nashville, we talked about them earlier in the podcast. They went from a very complicated logo, a terribly templated blue jersey, and just decided that they were going to own the color yellow. And they went to a simplified yellow and blue color scheme on the same logo, but the jerseys are yellow with the kind of saber-tooth pattern similar to what the St. Louis Blues started with by the collar, big blue cuffs, big blue hem of the jersey, and maybe this is one of the jerseys where piping was actually not so offensive, but we'll see what all the writers say. So let's start with a Dallas review. Shawn.
I would call these very solid jerseys. The color layout is very nice. The one weakness of this jersey, I think, is the hem stripe sits quite low, very similar to what the Rangers have, but as the Rangers have done that every year, the Stars have that problem. The problem that I have with these is originality in that the white jersey clearly looks like a Blackhawks jersey and the green jersey clearly looks like a Rangers jersey. But again, it's not so bad that you're sitting there going, these are just ripoffs.
Ben, thoughts on the Dallas jersey?
I kind of agree with Shawn and kind of don't. I think the lack of originality really sinks these. They both look like Blackhawks jerseys to me, especially the green one. I think they're different enough to where it's not like plagiarism or anything, but really not much to it. I don't like how there's the silver in the logo to bevel it, and there's nothing to match that in the rest of the jerseys. The logo sticks out awkwardly, and I don't like that look at all.
And Bpoe, Dallas.
I love these jerseys, and of course, if you're comparing them to the previous jerseys, it's going to be a huge improvement that they set a really low bar with those other ones. But I actually own the green version of this jersey, and God, does Victory Green look beautiful in person. As does, I think, the silver on the logo, the way that it shines, it looks great in person. And even though you might not notice it too much on the ice, it doesn't really matter because it's not like not noticing it actually takes away from the design. And I'm a fan of one-color numbers as well whenever they're used right, and I think this is one of the cases where it works pretty well. I don't think a black outline would have hurt it, but I think it still works pretty well. And I think that even having the road jersey in a slightly different style, like a slightly different template than the home jersey, actually also works really well, and it helps balance the colors really well and not have an overload of green versus black.
Yeah, I gotta agree with a lot with what Bpoe said. The green looks fantastic. I love the logo. I love the solid color numbers. They have a little bit of style to them to differentiate themselves from the rest of the league. And I personally, for me, they've done enough different on these jerseys that you don't look at them and just think, oh, they're green Blackhawks jerseys. That's for my opinion. Let's go to Nashville in their yellow jersey, or I guess the whole set. But Shawn, start us off with the Nashville review.
I think we can all agree here that these are probably the best use of this template. And you're right in that the piping did not kill the jersey. I feel that the away could have done a lot better color balancing, but it would have to be done in such a way that there was a lot of blue surrounding it. So I don't actually particularly mind the color balancing being off here. The one thing that's always bothered me about these jerseys, and Nashville still does it, is that stupid one shoulder patch idea. I don't like it when any team does that. I don't even like it when you replace a shoulder patch with an anniversary logo. So, other than that, it's a pretty solid look for them. And it's good that a modern team can use a modern template so well.
All right, Ben, Nashville.
This isn't a design I'm particularly fond of. I don't think I've ever seen piping on a jersey I've liked, although this isn't the worst case of it, as you mentioned. I don't like the yellow on the white jersey. I don't think it balances well. The one positive thing I can say about this is Nashville used this to really own yellow with just minimal blue and then white as an accent. Nashville really owns yellow in the NHL now, and this is the reason why.
And Bpoe, what do you think of Nashville's jersey?
Well, as I mentioned last review, I love a lot of color on jerseys, and oh boy, does this one do it, especially the yellow one. There really is there's no black, there's little white, it's so much color, and the navy blue is dark enough that it doesn't make the jersey too offensive and too bright, and it's a great contrast. And when it comes to the color balancing on the road jersey, sure, to color balance the entire set, it could use some more yellow, but if you look at that uniform alone, the colors are balanced perfectly. There is blue is the primary on the road set, and yellow takes the secondary role. And I think in the case like this, it actually works really well because if you look at this year with what Nashville did with their road jersey, the pants and the jersey compete having yellow and blue. The yellow and blue compete. And one thing that I love about Nashville's uniforms now too, the yellow helmets. I look back at pictures from a couple years ago and see the blue ones, and I'm like, that doesn't look good anymore. I don't like that at all.
Yeah, interesting. And yes, I didn't think the yellow helmets would work full time, but yes, I agree with you. They do work full time. I like the look of the blue, but the yellow works just as well, I think. Like I said in the description, the piping, I don't find it offensive. I think they took a Reebok template here and really showed people what you could do with it and really ran with it and made it their own and made it look like a hockey jersey. So I really enjoy Nashville's look in 2011. Their switch to Adidas has just been a disaster in my opinion, but this one before that was fantastic. If I have to give a rating, I give both of them, Dallas and Nashville, somewhere between an 8.5 and a 9. I think they're both equally good. And but let's go to Shawn first to pick your winner, Dallas or Nashville. Who wins this Throwback Throwdown?
I have a feeling I'm doing this in a losing effort, but I'm going to give it to Nashville as the better improvement, I think. And overall, just as a more unique design.
Ben, who wins this one?
I'll have to pick Dallas. Nashville's is a little too crazy for me. Dallas, while it's not original, still rips off a really good jersey, I think.
And Bpoe?
This is a tough one, and honestly, if you ask me in a few minutes, I might change my mind. And I was kind of worried that as you got to me, I wouldn't have made up my mind yet. But I'm going to have to say Nashville just because I really love the yellow. I just really like the yellow. Maybe it's because I'm a Pens fan and we use yellow too, but I think it looks great.
So Nashville takes this one. I would have gone with Dallas, but we don't need to end up in a tie. So I think Dallas's green is just phenomenal and pushes it a little bit ahead Nashville's jersey. But with a win and a score of 2-1, Nashville wins this Throwback Throwdown. Now, as I mentioned, still to come is your chance to win a free HJC sticker. But coming up next, we're going to do fake or authentic. Fake or authentic? Now, this is my favorite part of the podcast. This is where I give 3 statements, and just like all the jerseys you see at the arenas across the NHL, you have to decide whether the statement is fake or authentic. So here we go. 3 statements. Statement number 1, Phil Housley, head coach of the Buffalo Sabres, will not be the head coach of the Sabres for the start of the 2018-19 season. Shawn, fake or authentic?
As funny as it would be to see Jack Eichel take on another executive role in the team, I think that Phil Housley is far from the biggest problem on Buffalo, and I feel that they're in a similar situation to what the Leafs were before Mike Babcock, where you just have to ride out whatever coach you have until you find someone that you know is going to be better. I don't see him as a particularly terrible coach. This is a team that Dan Bilesma couldn't coach. Sorry, in the words of Mike Singletary, cannot coach with them, cannot win with them, can't do it.
All right, Ben. Phil Housley still going to be in Buffalo for the start of next season?
I don't think so. I'm going to say authentic on this. You know, we could talk about this all day long. TSN could talk about this all day long. We could pull the fans, get their opinions, but there's only one person in the world whose opinion matters, and that's Jack Eichel, clearly. If Dan Bilesma got fired for not, improving the team fast enough, going straight to the top of the draft lottery odds is not what you want to see in your new coach. So I don't think he's going to be around next season.
All right, Bpoe, you think Phil Housley's going to be coaching in Buffalo next year based on their last place finish this year?
I'm not really sure because I don't know much about the Sabres or their head coach. I'm just going to say that he will be coaching them next season just to have a different point of view here because he was only hired this year, and it's not like as far as I'm aware, it's all on him for Buffalo's hardships. And I feel like it probably wouldn't hurt to at least try out the beginning of the season, see how the Sabres do. They could always fire him mid-season. I mean, hey, look at the Penguins. They did that twice and won a Stanley Cup each time.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, I think it's a player problem in Buffalo. It's been a drafting and development problem for a long time. Definitely not a coaching problem, but it's an option that the general manager has to kind of buy him himself sometime. And it's a new general manager too. It's only his second season on the job, but yeah, it's a disaster in Buffalo this season. All right, statement number 2, fake or authentic? Baseball sucks. Shawn, fake or authentic?
Totally fake. I love baseball personally. In fact, I don't get a lot of the hate people have for baseball because the people who say baseball is slow, generally speaking, don't watch baseball. By the way, go Padres.
All right, Shawn likes baseball. Ben, baseball sucks.
As an American, I have to go with fake on this. I don't know why this came to mind, but I was thinking of movies, and you think of like the great hockey movies like Slapshot, Miracle. None of them even come close to comparing with Field of Dreams. I think that movie just captures the spirit of the game that really doesn't exist in hockey. So I think hockey's more fun to watch. It's more exciting, but there's just something about baseball, a great pastime, being a classic that hockey just can't compete with.
Bpoe, baseball sucks?
I'm going to say fake. I mean, I don't particularly love baseball, but I have nothing against it. I played it for a year in like 3rd grade or something like that. And I mean, it's just like I'm sure most sports are. They're very fun to play just with your friends and anything like that. But I mean, of course, it's just fun to have fun with your friends. And watching it, I've never particularly been into watching it too much. And I can't understand kind of why people might say it's a little bit slower because it's really, in a certain sense, just the same thing over and over again. And you don't have the same type of nonstop action as they do in hockey. but I can't really say much because I haven't watched much baseball.
This
But
is authentic for me.
Something that I think, or I just think baseball is, I have no problem with it.
This is authentic for me. Obviously, I write these statements. Baseball sucks for me. It just gets in the way. Now, if a buddy is going to buy the tickets and I got 3 hours that I can devote to going to a baseball game and having a beer with a buddy, that's fine. I don't care who wins. I don't care who loses. I don't care who gets a hit. I don't care who's pitching. I don't care who's at bat. I don't care how good that guy's fastball is. And I don't care how many home runs the hitter has. For me, baseball sucks. It just, the pace of play never bothered me. I can understand why people say it's slow, but that never bothered me. That's fine. I just don't, my care level is so low when it comes to baseball. I think baseball sucks. And one thing that adds to it is, here in Toronto, Rogers owns the Blue Jays. Rogers owns Sportsnet. Sportsnet broadcasts the NHL playoffs. So as soon as there's a down moment in the NHL playoffs or a stoppage of play, you're reminded that the baseball game is on another channel. And as soon as the period is over, you're reminded the baseball game is on another channel. As soon as the game is over, never mind recapping what just happened in the playoff game, we're going to go right to an in-game recap of the Blue Jays. And that contributes to my hatred of baseball. So just had to get it out there on the podcast. Everyone likes baseball except for me. Third statement.
The communist.
What's that?
You're a communist.
I'm a communist. Probably I'm a dirty commie. Yep. You don't like baseball? You're a commie.
Well, yeah. I'm a Canadian, and I think that. What?
Hitler didn't like baseball. Hitler was a communist. Therefore, Ryan doesn't like baseball. Therefore, he's a communist.
Therefore, Ryan is Hitler. Hashtag.
Pretty straightforward stuff here, I guess. All right. Moving on to the third statement before we really get into some trouble here. Fake or authentic. If the Quebec Nordiques were to ever come back to the NHL, they will use a new logo instead of rehashing the old retro logo, just like the new Winnipeg Jets. Shawn, fake or authentic?
This is completely fake in that I can't think of anything else to what represents Nordique because the 2005 WHA tried that with the Nordiques with a K at the end, which, by the way, is probably the worst name in hockey history. They tried to replace it with a polar bear. Now, as has been pointed out many times to me, there is no hockey team that has a polar bear as their main mascot, and Carleton does not count. He's just there. He's a corporate item.
He's a polar bear.
He's not a polar bear.
He's a polar bear.
Are the solar bears technically a polar bear?
No, they're solar bears, Bpoe. We've been over it. We've talked about this on the podcast before. But for the Nordiques to do anything other than that amazingly simple logo with an updated color scheme, maybe some beveling to it, I don't know. I think that wouldn't be the Nordiques. It's not the same as the Jets where the logo had the Jets logo itself. I don't think had enough tied to the Jets name in that it's like that's what you think of when you think of Winnipeg Jets. I think the color scheme did that more so.
All right, Ben, fake or authentic? Nordiques should use a new logo if they ever came back to the NHL.
This is a tough call, but since the Jets went with a new logo, I'll have to say authentic. I think there's elements of the Nordiques that's a little dated now. I think it's maybe a little too simple for modern taste. I never really liked it. I don't really get the igloo. The N is really hidden. The stick never really tied into the logo that well. But it really does have a sort of a cult following with people who want to see the Nordiques back. So maybe they come back with it. It's hard to say. But I think they're going to follow the example of the Jets.
Bpoe? They would use the Nordiques logo or have a new one?
Here's a quick question first. Does Colorado own the rights to the Nordiques logo? I'm not really sure about that.
No, I think the NHL does.
Okay. Well, even so, I still think that they will follow the route the Jets took and use a new logo. And like Ben said, just look at the Jets as the example. But I also wouldn't be surprised if they brought back the old one or even just modernized it, because like Ben also said, it has a cult following among hockey fans and especially those who want the Nordiques back.
Yeah, and if they ever came back, and I don't think they will, I would like to see a new logo. So this one would be authentic for me, but an alternate or a specialty jersey with the retro logo would be cool too, 3 or 4 times a year. So it's a good logo for retro nostalgia, pretty much. But yeah, if they ever came back, I think they would need to update the logo. Here's the part of the podcast where we give away a free HJC sticker. And this is from 2 weeks ago, where we're giving away the special edition Turd Burger Jersey Casual HJC sticker. And the winner of that, from retweeting our tweet, was John E. So John, if you're listening to the podcast, get in contact with us by email. Give us a shipping address that we can send that sticker to, and we'll get it right out to you. Now, here's the chance to win an HJC logo sticker. Sometime during this week, we're going to tweet out a message saying that you have to retweet that tweet and you have to listen to the podcast for your chance to win a free HJC sticker. The key is retweeting the tweet. Liking doesn't do it. Retweet the tweet and make sure to listen to the podcast the next week to see if you've won. We've had a few people who have not even claimed their sticker. So make sure to listen to the podcast to see if you've won. The winner from 2 weeks ago for the special edition Turd Burger Jersey Casual sticker was John E. John, make sure to get in contact with us. Coming up next, the mailbag. Mailbag. The HJC Mailbag. We're going to go to the mailbag, and we have a few questions sitting in there. We'll do a couple from Noah here. And Noah, his first question, what do you think next year's alternates for teams that haven't had one will be? There's a few teams that haven't had alternates. For me, Montreal comes to mind immediately. We don't have to cover every team, but maybe Shawn, start us off. One team who really hasn't had an alternate in the past and what you would expect from them next year.
The team that I would like to see do an alternate would be the Montreal Canadiens, for the simple reason that I've seen a lot of really nice concepts that tie in both the simplicity of their Centennial jerseys with modern colors, modern color layout, and modern jersey design that I think you could actually do something really nice. A jersey that increases the amount of blue used, I think would be something really worth going to.
All right, Ben, and maybe a team that doesn't typically have had an alternate and what you might expect from them next year.
I think a team we should be watching is the New Jersey Devils. They've kind of had an alternate in the past when they bring back the green on St. Patrick's Day. With Lou Lamoriello gone, I think the team is going to take advantage of that and try to come up with something that's unique, something that's totally different from their current sets. And if their last sets are any indication of what we're going to see, it's going to be a hilariously awful train wreck. So that'll be fun to look forward to.
Now, how about your Red Wings? Because I'm on the idea that just like the Leafs, like the rumor is the Leafs are just going to have the St. Pat's jersey as their alternate, and they're going to wear it once a year. So if the Red Wings have to wear an alternate, I think they should use a similar idea and maybe choose a specialty jersey to wear once a year. What do you expect from your Red Wings next year as far as alternate jersey?
I think if the Red Wings have an alternate jersey, I expect lots of kicking and screaming while being dragged into it. I would expect something like Toronto. They'll say, all right, we have 41 home games this year. What's one special day that we could do something if we have to have an alternate? And if not, screw the NHL.
All right, Bpoe, maybe a team that hasn't had an alternate in the past or not many alternates, and what you would expect this year from them.
I'm going to bring up two teams, one of them very briefly, though. The first one is Vegas, because they have never had an alternate, and I honestly don't know what I would expect from them next year. which would make it very interesting to see what they come up with. And the other team is Winnipeg, who also have not had an alternate. And I think that what they might do is possibly try to shift towards the heritage look, at least for an alternate. And I would be very interested to see if they do that, and especially, even if they don't, how much red they bring in and how much red they use. Or if they use light blue as a primary color. I think Winnipeg has a lot of options that all could look good.
Yeah, as far as Winnipeg goes, I think I'm ready for something new from them for an alternate jersey. Home and road are great; they're fine. Leave them as is. But I think I'm ready for something new from Winnipeg as an alternate jersey. I loved the Heritage Classic jersey. It's white, so the logistics really don't work out for it to be an alternate jersey. But yeah, I'm ready for something new. Shawn, you're a Jets fan. What would you like to see Winnipeg do?
I would like to see either a gray or light blue alternate.
Yeah. Well, I'm totally on board with the gray jersey. So that would be pretty cool. Our next question in the mailbag also comes from Noah B. What would your ideal Seattle NHL team be? He references names, colors, jerseys, whatever. What would your ideal Seattle NHL team be? Shawn, you got an idea here?
I'd love to see the Seattle Silver Salmon, personally. But that's not going to happen because apparently puns aren't appreciated in the NHL as much as I'd like them to be. My pick would actually go to, I want the Seattle Metropolitans back. I want the original color scheme back from the pre-NHL days, but even the logo, I think, holds up today. I just would like to see some nice green jerseys with some red, a little beige. But at the same time, Seattle teams tend to lean towards blue, like a navy blue, green or teal, and silver. So you know what? If they did that, it'd be fine too.
Ben, what would you like to see from a Seattle team?
I'm not sure how I feel about the team name. I think I would have to lean toward Metros for now. What I'm absolutely certain on is the color scheme. I think they need to match the Seattle Seahawks to do something like Pittsburgh. I think it's an underused scheme in sports right now. I think that could really give them something unique to work off of. Although we did have a concept on the blog a couple weeks ago. I reviewed it. I gave the logo an A+, although I didn't think the jerseys were quite as strong. It was from Christian L. It's in the concept of the month vote right now. Logo is phenomenal, and I think he called his team the Kraken because he had a tentacle wrapped around the Space Needle there, and it was a really great concept.
Yeah, I agree with you on the colors. I totally think they should use Seattle Seahawks colors. They would look fantastic. But let's get to before I talk about what I think the name should be. Bpoe, what would you like to see from a Seattle team?
I don't really have much of an idea on what I'd want in terms of the name. A few that I like are, again, the Metropolitans, or maybe the Sockeyes even. I think that would be a unique one. But I'm not really dead set on any sort of name for them. But in terms of the identity, I think that they absolutely need to have green in there, regardless of what they do. And I think the green would look great as the primary color as well. In terms of the secondary color, I think that what they're called, Seahawks navy dark blue could work. Even a brighter blue, even though they'd match Vancouver, I think it would work if they had green as the primary. A yellow, kind of like the Sonics had. I think they could go with a multitude of different secondary colors and still look really great.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, I want to see them in green and blue, same as the Seahawks. Maybe green as the primary color instead of blue. I just don't want Seattle Metropolitans because it was done. If they are going to go with a retro name, I kind of like Seattle Totems, but we'll see. I would prefer a completely new and original name with the Seahawks, colors. And I mean, I guess it's a blank slate, so they really can do anything. It's kind of like Vegas and their jerseys. They'll benefit from not having a history, and hopefully Seattle comes up with something really creative that everyone can get on board with. That was the mailbag. If you want to send any questions
Real quick. Is it okay if I throw in one quick impromptu question?
Yeah, go ahead.
this is based off of our talks earlier in the podcast. Would the Penguins, Senators, Lightning, that template, would that have been a little bit more well-received if only one team had used it?
No. Kill it.
Yes.
Burn fire. Never see it again.
Yes, because I think the Lightning pulled it off the best.
Oh boy. If one team used it, yes, it would be a little bit better received. I still think it's really weak. I think it's a black mark on what Reebok did with NHL jerseys. But yeah.
Now, what if the Leafs wore it? Is it better than the pajama tops?
Yeah, no, definitely not. The pajama tops.
That was a slip.
Yeah, I was
All
thinking
right,
of something
I need
else.
to make that one.
Is this part of Ryan's constant defense of the pajama tops? Weren't that bad, guys. They were bad, but they weren't that bad.
The pajama tops were bad. The pajama tops were 4 out of 10.
No, the teams were bad.
And the teams were bad. Yeah. And the logo is associated with losing. So all in all, that's bad for the Leafs. But the pajama tops by the Leafs were not as bad as that Reebok template used by Ottawa, Pittsburgh, and Tampa Bay. But if only one team used it, it would be like, oh, that's a terrible template. But yeah, it would soften the blow. But the fact that 3 teams used it, plus how many more in the minor leagues and the AHL, it was like, oh, there's that Reebok template again. And you just didn't want to see it. There was nothing about it that was positive.
Time to start a new series putting classic NHL teams on that template, like Toronto, Detroit, and Boston.
I did that. HJC told me to jump off a cliff.
Oh, that's right. You did do that.
I'll put that in the Saturday post. I got up to Chicago.
All right, so that was the mailbag. If you want to have your questions answered on a future episode of the podcast, you can leave your questions in the mailbag by going to hockeyjerseyconcepts.com and clicking on the podcast tab. On that page, you'll find the form to leave your questions, or you can email us, mailbag@hockeyjerseyconcepts.com. And if you have some really good questions, we may answer them on a future episode of the HJC podcast. Going on the blog right now on hockeyjerseyconcepts.com right now, we will have the color swatch competition voting. That'll be up. We have concept of the month, concept of the week for March, the first concept of the week vote for April. As always, we have HJC logo stickers for sale. We have HJC jersey casual shirts for sale. And as far as the podcast goes, we always want to hear feedback. If you like the podcast, what you're liking about the podcast, definitely what you hate about the podcast. And if you got some cool ideas for us, we'll take that too. As I mentioned with the mailbag or just anything in general, you can email us mailbag@hockeyjerseyconcepts.com. Now, if you enjoy the podcast, be sure to share it with your friends, share it on your social media streams, whatever you got to do. Help us get the word out, and let's get more people listening to the podcast. So, Shawn, thanks for joining me today.
Always glad to be a part of it. I look forward to the next one.
Ben, thanks for being here today.
Great to be back. Let's do it again.
And Bpoe, always fun having you on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Ryan.
Absolutely. That was our podcast for this week. Thanks for listening. Goodbye, everybody.